welcome to my channel. So in this particular tutorial, I'm going to be introducing you to JavaScript. Okay, so the first one we're going to do is we're going to head over to our Visual Studio Code. So if you don't have Visual Studio Code, kindly download and install Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to click on mine to open. Okay, so now that it has opened, I'm just going to maximize it a bit. Okay, to this point. So as you can see, we have like an empty project here. So there is currently no project inside our Visual Studio Code. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to create a project. So for you to create a project in Visual Studio Code, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to create a new folder. So I could just come over to this section and I'm going to right click to create a new folder. So I'll just come here and I could name this anything that I want. I could just name this JS intro. So I think this is fine, but you could literally name it anything that you want. So after this, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to drag this folder that I just created into my Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to drag and drop it inside here. So now it has opened inside my Visual Studio Code. And how do I know this? I know this because this same name that I gave my folder, JS Intro, I can see right here, JS Intro. So currently the folder has been moved into the Visual Studio Code, but there are no files inside the folder. This is because if there were files inside the folder, I would have seen them listed here one by one, but currently there is no file inside the folder. So I'm going to go ahead to create a new file. So it's going to be the first file that we need. So for us to create a new file, I will have to come over to this section. So as you can see, when I hover on it, it's going to say new file. So once I click on this, it's going to open where I can type in the name of the new file that I want to create. So I could just name this index.html, and once I hit enter, it's going to open and take me to the HTML page. So this is currently empty, and some of you might be wondering, isn't this supposed to be JavaScript course? I'm supposed to be focusing on JavaScript, but what are we doing in a HTML document? So basically, we need, for us to be able to view our JavaScript code on the web page or on the browser, we need to link our JavaScript to our HTML. So that's why we're doing this. So we need to type in our HTML. So I'm going to type in HTML, and when I type this in, our Visual Studio Code is going to recommend three things for me. So I'm going to click on the one with HTML:5. This is because I want HTML5 templates to currently appear when I click on this, and once I click on it, we have our HTML5 templates currently here. So now where are we going to link our JavaScript code? So we're going to link it directly inside the body. So this is the body. So we're going to link it directly inside here, but we're meant to only link it directly above the closing tag of the body. So normally in a HTML document, we would have our parent divs. So it could look like this, and we'll have other divs. Regardless of how many divs we have, we usually have like one parent div. So even if you don't have a parent div, regardless, or even if you have a parent div, all you need to know is that once you're done typing or putting all your divs or whatsoever, you're meant to come directly right above the closing tag of the body and add your script tag. So the script tag is the tag that is meant to be used for linking your JavaScript to your HTML. So to add that script tag, I'm going to come and type in script. So script. So once I type this in, the same Visual Studio Code is going to give us three options for which of the scripts we want to work with. So I'm going to click on the one with :src. So once I click on this, it's going to bring in the full script tag. So now inside this quotation is where I'm going to name my JavaScript file script.js. So now this is how I've been able to link in my JavaScript file to the HTML. So all you need to know is when you come to the body area, directly above the closing tag of the body, you add your script tag. Then inside this quotation is where you type in the name of whatever file that you want to name your JavaScript. So we're going to copy this name that will just give the JavaScript file, and we're going to come over here and now actually create the file. So remember I said this is where you go to create a new file. So once I click on this, I'm going to paste in this same name here, and as you can see, our JavaScript icon has appeared, meaning that because we added the .js, it has recognized this as a JavaScript file. So once I hit enter, it's going to take us to where we can start typing our JavaScript. So basically, this is how you link your JavaScript to your HTML. You simply add the script tag while naming your JavaScript file, or whatever you want to name it. So once you add this directly above the closing tag of the body, and you create a new file and you give it the same name as you gave it here, so that just makes up for how you link your JavaScript to your HTML, and that's that. So just to get started with the code with JavaScript overall, I'm going to start with one basic concept, which is variable declaration. So variable declaration is basically how you are able to type in certain values in JavaScript. So let's say we had, or in a regular text of a regular person, if you wanted to type in names of people, you could type in something like this. You could type in Kenny. And if you wanted to type in the name of the second person, you come to the next line and you could type in James. So for a regular person, this is okay, or in a regular text or whatsoever, this is okay, and this is a good way of typing in names. But in JavaScript, this is obviously going to result in an error, and it doesn't really make any sense, because in JavaScript you have to be precise and structured whenever you are typing in anything or any value. So to now write this properly, as we would write in a normal programming language, and in this case being JavaScript, we'll start with something that is it's going to go like let person one person one become, then we're going to add a quotation, become Kenny, then we'll add a semicolon. So semicolon signals that we're done with whatever action we're trying to, or whatever command we're trying to type in. So then we'll go over to the next line. So it's going to be let person two be James. So let me just explain this. So instead of just typing in the list of names here, in JavaScript we won't do that, because it is not an ideal way, and it is even of high advantage typing it this way. Why I'm going to explain that to you is because I'm going to use this example now. Let's say we had a user or a list of users, and the first person's name is Kenny, second person's name is James, and the third person's name is also Kenny. Now, how are we going to be able to differentiate between the first Kenny and the third Kenny without actually going to modify the name of the person itself by saying Kenny 1 or Kenny 2? This doesn't really make sense. So in JavaScript, in order to avoid such problems, we go ahead and give them identifiers. So now whenever I call on let's say I wanted to write this in a JavaScript way, I would say something like this: let person 3 become Kenny. So this is obviously referring to the third person on the list, which is the third, which of whose the person's name is also Kenny. So now, whenever we call on person 3, we know we're referring to the third person on the list whose name is Kenny, and whenever we call on person 1, we know we're referring to this the first person on the list whose name is also Kenny. So in this way, we can actually distinguish and identify between two users or two things of the same name or the same letters. So this is why this is of very high advantage. So instead of naming them like this, which is not very distinguishable, it's better to always name it like this. So let me just get rid of this. So now, the next thing that I'm also going to explain is that um, why I think this is actually a very good way of identifying things is that this is also straight to the point. This is using a let keyword, and it's saying if you could remember maybe one while you were in school back in the day, or if you're still in school now and wanted to say let x equal to 1. So this is basically still the same concept. So you know that whenever you are calling x, or whenever you're referring to x, it means you're actually referring to the value of 1. So if you happen to say something like x plus 2 or something like that, it means you're basically saying 1 plus 2, which is equal to 3. So this goes as the same concept here. So whenever you call on person 1, just know you're referring to Kenny. Whenever you call on person 2, you're referring to James. And whenever you call on person 3, you're referring to the third, which is you're referring to Kenny, the third person whose name is also Kenny. So this is why this actually makes sense, and it is straight to the point, and you can actually work with different variables without contradicting any particular one that you want to work with. So now explaining the value. So in JavaScript, you have different data types. So when I say data types, I'm talking about these values here. So if you notice, this is actually in quotation. So if something is in quotation, this means we usually call this a string. So a string is basically anything that you want it to display directly as you typed it in. So for example, if I happen to do something like this, if I happen to say if I happen to get, okay, let me just use something of mathematics. Okay, let me just use something of calculation. So if I happen to say something like, okay, let me just use something of calculation. So if I happen to say something like this, 1 plus 1. So because of this is inside the quotation, if I happen to ever want it to display on a web page, it's going to display as this 1 plus 1 without actually calculating. But once I get rid of this quotation, it is no longer a string. So if I happen to display this on a web page, it displays as 2. So now this is the difference. Or if I wanted to work with it in any way, it's going to display as 2. So a string is if you want something to appear just as you've typed it. So that's that. So I could just categorize this right here as a string. So I'll just come over here and comment this as string. So in JavaScript, if you ever want to comment something, you could just add a double slash. So this is how we could comment something out. So in this case, this is referring to the string. So everything we're working with in this particular video is going to be a string. So let me just take this back to what it was, and which was Kenny. So yeah, I think this is fine. So now that I've explained to you how you could declare variables in JavaScript properly, especially when you're working with a string, the next thing I'm going to teach you is how you could actually view this on a web page. So another thing I need to point out is the fact that when you're working with identifiers, so these are called identifiers, this is called a keyword, and these are the values. So when you're working with identifiers, all identifiers has to be unique. So you can't give this person 1 to Kenny and also come and declare another variable with let and say let person 1 also be another thing. So we're going to run into an error when we do that. So all identifiers must be unique. you can't use it more than once. So that's that. So for us to view this particular thing on a web page, so if you've been following my previous videos on HTML and CSS, I said if you ever want to open your web page, you're going to go over to your HTML and right click and open with live server. So if you don't have live server, kindly go to the section where you could install it. That's this extension section, and search for live server and install it. And once you install it and you right click here, it will show you open with live server. So once I click on this, my default browser is going to open. And now it has opened, but as you can see, our page is currently blank. Let me just move this right here so I could have it side by side. I like to have my code or my editor on the left side while I view whatever I'm typing on the right side. So all things kind of being equal, then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to show you how you could display all of this on the web page, which is the main purpose of why we actually linked our JavaScript to the HTML at the beginning of the video. So obviously our page is currently blank. This is because there is nothing showing in the HTML. For example, if right here we had something like this in a text saying testing, and I hit save, obviously it would appear. But let's just get rid of that because this is not a HTML course. We're trying to show you how you could actually work with JavaScript and how you could manipulate your HTML so that you could show your JavaScript on the web page. So if I ever want to manipulate my HTML so I could view my JavaScript on the web page, I first of all need to work with either IDs or classes. So in my case, I like to work with IDs. So if you ever want to manipulate any part of the your HTML, just look for any particular tag or any particular element of your choice and give it an ID. So in this case, I could either go here and give this an ID, or I could go here. So I think I prefer this. So I could just come here and give this an ID, and the name of the ID, I could just name it anything. I could say sample hyphen ID. So yes, so this is okay. So let me just hit save. Obviously it won't do anything, so I will just have to copy this with the quotation. Just copy with the quotation, and that's that. Then I'm going to go over to my script.js file, which is my JavaScript file. Now, if I wanted to ever display this value on the web page, what do? I'm going to use a particular method, so which is a standard way of viewing something or manipulating your HTML, which is typing in documents. So documents dots get elements by ID. So as you can see, it's right here. So I could just click on this, and then I'm going to add a bracket. So this is basically saying go to my HTML documents and get an element by its ID. And remember, I've already specified in a particular tag a particular ID that I want. So regardless of where the ID is located, all you need to do is just type in the ID with the quotation. So remember, I'll give it an ID in the HTML. So now I'm going to paste, because we copied it previously. So I'm going to paste it inside the brackets here. So now that I've pasted it, I'm now going to say dot inner text. Dot inner text. Then I'm going to say equal to. Then I'm going to say person 1. Then add my semicolon because I'm done with this command. Then I'm going to hit save and watch what happens. Once I hit save, now I have Kenny displaying on my web page. So just to go over all of this, so what did I do? Obviously, I've declared my the variables, and over here I'm saying go to my HTML documents, get an element by its ID, and inside the bracket to specify whatever ID we want to work with. Now dot inner text is saying let the inner text. So we're grabbing the HTML. Now inside the HTML, we're grabbing an element by its ID. Now for whatever elements that were grabbed by its ID, we're saying let the inner text And remember, the equal to sign is just like is an assignment sign saying become. So it's the same thing as saying let it be. So I'm saying let it be person one. And remember, whenever I call on person one, the value is going to appear, which is Kenny. So this is why Kenny appeared. So we always call things by their identifiers. We don't call them by their values, which is why you always need to declare your variables. So if we wanted it to display James, we could say let this be person two, which is James. And once we hit save, now it is person two. And if I wanted it to be person three, we're going to hit save, and now it's person three, which is Kenny. So this is a good way that you could actually um, declare variables and actually view it on the web page. And you could always name your identifiers anything that you like. It could be anything, literally anything. If I wanted to just distinguish, let's say we had just two things here, two Kennys, and you wanted to just name this first Kenny and second Kenny, or Kenny 1, Kenny 2, you could just say something like first Kenny and come over here and say second Kenny. And once we hit save, obviously now our page is blank because we're trying to view person 3, which isn't defined. So in order for us to view any of this, if I wanted to be a first Kenny, we could just come over here and highlight and go over here, paste it. So we're now saying let whatever is here become first Kenny. Now when I hit save, it's going to show as Kenny. And if I wanted to view second Kenny, I could do the same, come over here and say second Kenny. And once I hit save, Kenny is still going to appear. What if second Kenny had the value of James? So it would be James. And if I hit save, it's going to change to James. So that's that. So what if I didn't want to view this through the HTML. I just wanted to view the output of any of this. Maybe if you're working with something and you feel like, oh, this is too long, I don't want to work with this. You can use something that is called console.log, which is highly important in in JavaScript. So let's say I wanted to view any of these values. Let's say I wanted to view first Kenny, the value of first Kenny. So I could come here and say something like console the log. Then inside this bracket, I'm going to call on first Kenny. And when I hit save and add my semicolon and hit save, now obviously it's not going to appear on the web page directly. It's going to appear, we're going to be able to view it in the dev tools. So if you're using Google Chrome, which I highly recommend, just kindly click on the browser, then hit on Ctrl+Shift+C, and DevTools is going to appear. This is DevTools. Now go to console, because this is what we're calling on, that wants to view the outputs. Once you go to console, you're going to see the outputs, which is the first Kenny, which is Kenny. And if I happen to change this to second Kenny, it's going to also appear in the console. Let me drag the console to come out like this. So if I want to type in second Kenny and I hit save, now it's going to be James. So this is how you could distinguish between two different values. So just if you found the video to be useful, kindly leave a thumbs up, or kindly go to the comment section and type in your comments, and kindly subscribe and check out the next video so you could start learning more